I might read just a passage from, this is the Logic of Scientific Discovery, the English translation of Logik der Forschung. I'll just read a few lines from section 6, falsifiability as a criterion of demarcation. Popper says, the criterion of demarcation inherent in inductive logic, that is the positivistic dogma of meaning. Remember that Popper is rejecting both any discourse about meaning and inductive logic, and the two things go together. So the criterion of demarcation inherent in inductive logic is equivalent to the requirement that all statements of empirical science must be capable of being finally decided with respect to their truth and falsity. We shall say that they must be conclusively decided. This is the logical positivist point of view. Now, in my view, Popper says, there is no such thing as induction. Please note, he's not saying that induction does not work, that induction is problematic, that induction, whatever. He says that induction does not exist. There is no such thing as induction. Thus, inference to theories from singular statements, which are verified by experience, in inverted commas, whatever they mean, whatever that may mean, is logically inadmissible. Theories are never empirically verified. But I shall certainly admit a system as empirical or scientific only if it is capable of being tested by experience. These considerations suggest that not the verifiability, but the falsifiability of a system is to be taken as a criterion of demarcation. In other words, I shall not require of scientific system that it shall be capable of being singled out once and for all in a positive sense, but I shall require that its logical form shall be such that it can be singled out by means of empirical tests in a negative sense. It must be possible for an empirical scientific system to be refuted by experience. So the more the scientific character of a theory or of an hypothesis is its ability, so to say, to being subjected to test, subjected to criticism. That's what makes a theory scientific. A theory which is on paper or in principle able to cope or to account for any possible phenomenon, a theory that is able to explain everything, however strange or odd this may sound, is not scientific, because its content is zero. It has no content. The more a theory forbids, Popper says, the more it says, the higher is its content, not the other way around. And that's, this is a crucial point. To use one of Popper's pupils' expression, if we have a test and the theory passes the test, then we know something. That we had a theory, it passed the test, so we still know what the theory says, but we've learned nothing. We've learned nothing. If, by contrast, a theory, we have a test and the theory fails to pass the test, then after the test we know nothing, because what we knew before the test, namely the theory, is no longer valid, but we've learned something. So our knowledge grows through conjectures and refutations. So a theory such as Freud's psychoanalysis, for example, Popper says, that it is in principle able to account for any possible event, is devoid of any potential falsifier, and therefore is devoid of any content. It does not say anything about the world. In order to further develop this idea, this ratio negativa, as it's so often presented, Popper deals with what he calls Free's trilemma. Remember what we said at the very beginning in the first meeting we had. We started from the question. We have a new scientific revolution, namely what happened in between the 19th and 20th century with the collapse of the edifice of classical physics, so to say, with which the new century opened. From the philosophical point of view, the problem was, how do we provide science with firmer foundations? How do we provide scientific knowledge with a more solid basis? How do we achieve some knowledge of the world, some episteme? Episteme means in Greek something that is based on something else, which is founded on a rock bottom, so to say. Episteme, right? Because the only reliable knowledge is some form of episteme, as opposed to doxa, which is mere opinion. In an ever-changing world, we know something with some reliability if we are able to spot what does not change in an ever-changing world. That's the idea. And the answer, well, the problem has always been like that. Ever since the ancient Greeks, the pre-Socratics, then Plato, Aristotle, the medieval philosophers, the first scientific revolution in the 17th century, and the development of philosophy of science as offered by Descartes, as we said, or Francis Bacon and others, the idea up to the 20th century, for more than 20 centuries, the question has always been the same. How do I come up with some form of knowledge which is reliable and hence invariant in an ever-changing world? How do I get this kind of episteme, this grounded knowledge, knowledge founded upon solid bedrock? This was Wittgenstein's problem at the very beginning of the century. This was the logical positivist's problem. Popper says, for the first time in the whole history of Western philosophy, knowledge does not need to have any solid foundation. It will be reliable. It will be useful. We build planes. We build mobile phones. We go to other planets. I'm talking from the observatory here, so we are able to detect gravitational waves. Science is extremely reliable. It helped us through the pandemic and so on, but that does not mean that the science we are currently using is based on any solid bedrock. Science is a conjecture and will always remain a conjecture. Any theory will always remain a conjecture. So there is no way of providing science with a firmer ground. There is no way of basing the edifice of science on a bedrock. But we do not need, Popper says, to do that. Not only we cannot do that, but we do not need to do that in order for our knowledge to be reliable, to be scientific.